Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. It had been years since I'd last talked to Evan. We were close in high school, not best friends, but close enough to share long bus rides and dumb conversations during lunch. We lost touch after graduation, like most people do, and the years just stacked up. I moved to a different state, worked a series of nothing jobs, and didn't think about him much. Then, out of nowhere, he messaged me on Facebook, said he'd seen one of my hiking posts and asked if I was still into camping. "We should catch up," he wrote. "Like old times." I hesitated at first, but it had been a rough few months. I was newly single, restless, and maybe too eager to say yes to something that reminded me of a simpler time. We planned a quick weekend trip to a forested area in upstate New York, near a place called Letchworth. I'd been there once before, years ago, and remembered it as quiet and scenic, the kind of place people go to forget things. Evan offered to bring the gear, said he'd gotten into backpacking recently and had all the good stuff now. When I pulled up to the trailhead that Saturday morning, he was already there, waiting next to an old green Jeep with a weirdly huge cooler in the back. He looked older, obviously, but there was something else. A nervous energy under his smile, like a caffeine buzz or someone rehearsing a story too many times in their head. We started hiking around mid-morning. The air was crisp, and the trails were mostly empty. At first it felt good, familiar even. We joked about people we used to know, awkward teachers, bad teenage decisions. But a few hours in, Evan started steering the conversation somewhere off. He asked if I ever thought about how easy it'd be to disappear in a place like that. "Seriously," he said, pushing aside a branch. "No cameras, no one around. You could scream out here and nobody would hear a thing." I laughed kind of nervously, assuming he was joking. But he didn't laugh back. He just kept walking, casually tossing over his shoulder. "I've read some crazy stuff about the perfect crime." That night by the fire, it got worse. We were both a couple beers in, stars out, fire crackling low. Evan started talking about how the woods are a cleansing place, and how people underestimate how fragile a human body really is. He wasn't being edgy or funny. He was calm, weirdly focused. He said things like, "You'd be surprised how long it takes someone to stop moving. And if you bury the body under a dead animal, dogs won't smell it." I remember my stomach tightening with every word. I kept trying to steer the topic back to normal stuff, work, movies, anything. But he'd circle back like he had this one script he needed to finish. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept listening for movement outside the tent, thinking I heard twigs snapping, but convincing myself it was just animals. Still, I left the knife from my camping kit unzipped and next to me, just in case. The next morning, Evan acted completely normal. He brewed some strong instant coffee, offered me a breakfast bar, and talked about the sunrise like nothing had happened the night before. I didn't bring it up. Wasn't sure if he remembered how intense he'd sounded, or if it had all just been some twisted way to freak me out. Either way, I wanted to finish the hike and get home. We packed up, hiked the rest of the loop trail, and by early afternoon we were back at the cars. Before we left, he clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Man, that was awesome. Let's do it again sometime." I gave him a vague, "Yeah, for sure," but I knew I wouldn't. The whole ride home, I kept replaying his words. The tone, the way he looked at the fire when he said that thing about bodies under animals. It wasn't just weird, it felt rehearsed. Weeks passed, and I tried to forget about it. Life got busy again, work picked up, I went on a couple dates, I even started planning a solo trip to Maine. But then, one Thursday night, I was scrolling through the local news before bed, when a headline stopped me cold. "Human remains found in state forest." I clicked the link. The article was brief. A body had been discovered by hikers in a shallow grave not far from Letchworth. No ID yet, but investigators were treating it as suspicious. I froze. I knew that area. We had walked right near there. My mouth went dry. I couldn't sleep that night, and I kept checking for updates every hour until dawn. 2 days later, they released a name. The victim was a 23-year-old woman named Rachel Kerrigan. She had been reported missing about a month before, around the exact time Evan and I had taken that trip. Then came the real punch. Suspect in custody. Evan Chambers, 30, arrested in connection with Letchworth body discovery. My legs actually buckled when I saw his mugshot. It was him, same face, same stupid smirk. The article said he'd been linked through tire tracks and items recovered from the scene. No details on motive, no timeline yet. Just his face and that name. I felt sick. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I didn't tell anyone right away. What would I say? Hey, I went camping with a guy who talked about how to bury a body and then got arrested for literally doing that. I kept thinking about what could have happened if I'd said the wrong thing that night, or if I hadn't pretended to laugh when he brought up murder. I kept picturing myself asleep in the tent while he sat outside, staring into the fire, maybe deciding something. I couldn't shake that thought, that maybe I wasn't just part of a story he wanted to tell. Maybe I was almost part of the ending. A couple weeks after the arrest, I got a call from a detective. I hadn't reached out to anyone, but I guess Evan had mentioned me in some part of his interviews. The detective asked if I'd be willing to come in and answer a few questions, and I agreed. Sitting in that little room with the buzzing overhead light, I told them everything. The hike, the campfire, the creepy comments. I left nothing out. The detective, a woman named Ruiz, just nodded quietly and took notes. At one point, she asked, "Did you feel like you were in danger?" And I remember just staring at her for a few seconds, not sure how to answer. I told her the truth. At the time, I didn't know what I was feeling. But now? Yeah, I think I was. They said they found Rachel's phone buried about 30 feet from the site. The messages stopped the day before Evan and I met up. I didn't know her, but that detail destroyed me. It meant she might have still been alive when he texted me about going camping. Like he had already done it and was looking for someone to hang out with afterward. Or worse, that he hadn't done it yet. That maybe our trip was some kind of test run. A dry run with a friend he thought he could manipulate. That realization stayed with me for days. I kept thinking back to the beer, the fire, his weird hollow eyes when he talked about the woods like they were sacred ground. I felt disgusted, violated even. They never found out exactly how she died. The reports were vague. Some signs of trauma, some things withheld pending the investigation. But the case didn't go to trial. Evan pled guilty to second-degree murder and took a deal. 25 years. No parole for at least 15. I read that he showed no emotion in court, no apology, no breakdown. Just stared ahead like none of it mattered. That part didn't surprise me. He always had this detached way of talking, like everything he said was a theory he didn't fully believe in. Only now I realized it wasn't theory. It was practice. I haven't gone camping since. I sold my gear and deleted the hiking groups I used to follow. Sometimes I still dream about that trip, the way the fire crackled while Evan talked, the look on his face when he said, "You'd be surprised how long it takes someone to stop moving." I hear those words in my head, over and over. What haunts me most isn't what happened. It's how close I was to it. How close he was to me. I'll never understand what was going through his mind, or why he reached out to me after all those years. But I know this. If I hadn't laughed when he joked about murder, I don't think I'd be here to write this. I'm not sure if this belongs here, but I need to get it off my chest. This happened last year during my second semester at Penn State. I was a computer science major, decent grades, nothing special, just trying to stay afloat like everyone else. I had a part-time job at a campus cafe, lived in a shared off-campus apartment, and usually kept to myself. That semester, I took a course called Data Structures and Algorithms, and it was the kind of class that weeds out the weak. Half the class was drowning by midterms. That's when I met Jason. He was quiet, always sat in the back, wore oversized hoodies even when it was hot. Never really spoke unless spoken to. One day after class, he approached me while I was packing up my laptop and asked if I could help him prep for the midterms. I hesitated at first. I barely had time for myself. But he looked genuinely stressed, almost panicked. Said he was on academic probation and couldn't afford to fail again. I agreed to help him out for a couple hours each week, just going over the basics. The first few sessions were chill. We met at the library or the student union. He didn't talk much, but he listened, took notes, nodded. He wasn't exactly picking up fast, but I figured maybe he just needed time. I'd explain recursion or linked lists, and he'd just stare at the screen like he was translating a foreign language in his head. He kept thanking me over and over, which honestly started feeling a little excessive. Like, yeah, I'm helping you. No need to bow down. But I brushed it off. Not everyone's good socially. Then one day he said his laptop was acting weird, full of pop-ups and glitches. He asked if I could help him install some free security software he'd found. I told him to just bring it to our next session, and I'd take a look. He came to the cafe where I worked, handed me a flash drive, and said I could run the setup file on my own laptop first, just to make sure it worked. I should have known better. I work in tech, but I was distracted, on shift, and trusted that he wasn't trying to screw me over. That was my first mistake. I didn't even think twice. During a slow hour at work, I plugged in the flash drive and clicked the installer. It opened a basic-looking window that said System Defender Lite or something like that. Nothing fancy. I let it run, it blinked a few times, and then nothing. It just disappeared. No confirmation, no desktop icon, no process in Task Manager. That was weird, but again, I was busy steaming milk for a cappuccino and didn't want to overthink it. I just texted Jason saying it didn't seem to work, and he replied with, okay, I'll try it later. Thanks anyway. Over the next couple of days, my laptop started acting strange. At first, it was small things. My trackpad would freeze up, Chrome would randomly crash, or my webcam light would flicker for a second when I wasn't using it. I figured maybe the laptop just needed a restart, or maybe the drive had a bug. I even laughed about it with my roommate, saying, "Jason gave me a virus, huh?" But then I started noticing things I couldn't explain away. Folders were opening by themselves. My Spotify would suddenly start playing songs I didn't cue. And late at night, while working on a group project, I saw my mouse cursor move on its own, slowly, deliberately, like someone was remote controlling it. I freaked out, immediately yanked the Ethernet cable and shut the laptop. My heart was pounding in my throat. I tried to calm myself down, told myself it was just a glitch or maybe some new dumb Windows update. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I've spent enough time around computers to recognize when something's off, so I rebooted in safe mode and scanned for malware. Nothing. I downloaded 3 more tools, ran them one by one. Still nothing. That's when it hit me. This thing wasn't just malware. It was something custom, something designed to hide. A few days later, my worst nightmare came true. I woke up to 3 missed calls from my sister, and when I answered, she was crying. "Your photos. They're online," she said. At first, I didn't understand. She sent me a link. It was a Reddit thread filled with leaked personal content, photos from my phone that were synced to my laptop, including private selfies, screenshots of texts, even a video of me changing clothes in my room. My skin went cold, I couldn't breathe. I felt like someone had reached into my body and flipped my insides out. That webcam light flicker. It wasn't random. Someone had been watching me. I went straight to the university IT department, shaking. I showed them everything. The thread, the USB stick, the symptoms on my laptop. They took it seriously, way more seriously than I expected. Within hours, I was talking to campus police, then to actual cybercrime investigators. They took my laptop for forensics and warned me not to confront anyone, especially Jason. That's when I knew. They already had suspicions. I asked if they thought it was him, and the officer just said, "We're looking into all possibilities, but your instinct to bring this in quickly might have saved you from more damage." 3 days later, they had their answer. The spyware was custom-coded, hidden deep inside that installer. It logged keystrokes, accessed cloud backups, remotely activated the webcam, the whole 9 yards. The kicker? The program was registered to a student email, Jason's. They found logs showing the exact time it was installed, which matched my cafe shift. They even pulled security footage of him handing me the drive. I couldn't believe it. The guy who barely spoke a word, who thanked me endlessly for helping him, had built a trap just to spy on me. It felt personal, intimate, violating in a way I still can't put into words. Jason was arrested a week later. I didn't even recognize him when they showed me the footage of him being taken away. No hoodie this time. Just a plain t-shirt, blank face like none of it mattered. I heard through someone in class that this wasn't the first time he'd pulled something shady. Apparently, 2 girls from a dorm floor had reported creepy behavior months before, but nothing ever stuck. Now they had evidence. Solid, digital evidence. I never saw him again after that. I don't even know if he was expelled or what. I didn't want to know. I ended up changing majors the following semester. I switched to communications. I stopped trusting people so easily, even if they seemed harmless. Especially if they seemed harmless. I still use a webcam cover to this day, and I keep every device on lockdown. No USBs, no unverified software, nothing. It's wild how one small decision, helping a shy guy with homework, turned into the worst invasion of my life. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd kept tutoring him longer. If I hadn't noticed the signs, if I hadn't pulled that Ethernet cable. Maybe he would have done worse. I still think about that. I'm not really sure how to start this, but I've been lurking on here long enough to know some of you will understand what I'm feeling. This happened last fall, when I was working at a mid-sized insurance firm in Oregon. I'm 29, live alone, and back then my life was painfully normal. Wake up, bus to work, eat lunch at my desk, rinse, repeat. The only thing that kept me going some days was true crime podcasts. I'd listen to them while doing data entry. Totally zoned into cases from 20 years ago, half of them still unsolved. That's actually how I got close to another girl at the office, Lena. She worked in claims, 1 floor above me, and we met at the vending machine complaining about how boring the break room coffee was. Somehow the conversation veered into podcasts, and next thing I knew we were trading episode recs like baseball cards. Lena was different. Not in a bad way at first. She was funny, sharp, always had this very dry, deadpan delivery that made her stories land even harder. Her favorite podcasts were the grisly ones, the ones that didn't shy away from the most disturbing details. I liked them too, though maybe not with the same obsession she had. After a few weeks, we started hanging out after work. We'd grab takeout and watch crime documentaries at her apartment, a small but tidy place filled with cat figurines and horror DVDs. Lena had this notebook she kept on her coffee table. She called it her crime log. At first I thought it was a joke, but no. She had pages and pages of case notes, timelines, even theories about who the real Zodiac might be. I found it weirdly impressive. I thought maybe she missed her calling. One night in particular stands out. It was raining, and we were watching a documentary about a string of murders in the 90s where the killer would leave a matchstick wedged in the victims' mouths. The doc mentioned it only briefly. Most people would have missed it, but I made a joke, something like, "I mean, who even thinks to do that? That's not a calling card, that's a confession." I laughed, kind of expecting Lena to laugh too, but she just glanced over at me and said totally casually, "It was probably because he used matches to light the house on fire. Maybe he always had one left in his hand." I blinked. That detail wasn't in the documentary. I paused it, rewound, listened again. No mention of a fire. I asked her where she heard that, and she shrugged, smiled a little, and said, "Just a guess." Then she got up to pour more wine. I told myself it didn't matter. People speculate all the time, right? And Lena was smart. Maybe she just put two and two together. But after that night, something shifted. She started texting me more often, sending long threads of unsolved murders with her own breakdowns of who she thought the killers were. Some of it was insightful, sure, but some of it was just unsettling. She was too invested. Like she wasn't just trying to solve them, she was trying to relive them. One text said, "He walked her out the back door instead of the front. That tells you everything you need to know." No context. Just that. I didn't even know which case she was talking about. I started pulling away after that. Nothing dramatic. I didn't ghost her or anything. But I stopped hanging out at her place and took longer to reply to her messages. I told her work was getting crazy, which wasn't exactly a lie. She didn't push back much, just sent the occasional, "Found a new one for us," or "Wait till you hear this one" text. I muted the thread, but I couldn't stop thinking about the matchstick comment. It was such a small thing, but it stuck with me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how weird it had been. How quickly she said it, like it wasn't something she had to think about at all. It just slipped out. And once that seed was planted in my head, I started remembering other moments, little red flags I'd brushed off, like how she once said she hated when cases got solved because the mystery dies. Then came the cops. It was a Thursday, I remember, because I had just spilled coffee on my keyboard and was mid-meltdown when a plainclothes officer showed up at reception asking for me by name. Everyone in the office thought I was in trouble, joking like I'd been caught embezzling or something. I followed him into a conference room, still laughing nervously, until I saw the badge and realized he wasn't joking. His name was Detective Hall, and he was investigating a cold case that had just been reopened. He asked if I knew Lena Wilcox. My mouth went dry. I nodded. He told me she'd been linked to a 2001 homicide, something about new forensic evidence and a recent anonymous tip. Then he asked something that really threw me off. Did she ever mention a matchstick? I felt like my stomach dropped straight through the floor. I couldn't even answer right away. I just sat there staring at him like an idiot. Eventually, I told him everything. The podcast nights, the comments she made, the notebook, even some of the texts she'd sent me. He took notes without reacting, but I could tell he already knew most of it. That's what really got me. He wasn't surprised by anything I said. It was like he was just confirming a theory he already had. When I asked what exactly she was being accused of, he said, "We think she might have known the victim personally." That's all he would give me. He thanked me and left. I sat in that conference room alone for another 15 minutes trying to convince myself this was all some weird coincidence. Later that night, I broke and looked up the case. The victim was a woman named Tara Greaves. She was 24 when she was murdered, stabbed in her own apartment, no forced entry, no suspects, and yes, a single matchstick found in her mouth. I don't know how Lena knew her. I don't know if she did it. All I know is that Lena had never once mentioned that case to me. And yet somehow, she described a detail only the killer or the original detectives could have known, like it had just been floating in her head, waiting for a moment to slip out. After that night, I stopped listening to true crime altogether. It didn't feel like entertainment anymore. It felt dirty, like I'd gotten too close to something I was never supposed to touch. Lena didn't come back to work the next day or any day after that. HR said she was on leave, but everyone knew something was up. The whispers started before the weekend hit. People said she'd been arrested. Others claimed she'd vanished before they could detain her. One guy even joked that she was probably watching us now, waiting to see who would talk. I didn't laugh. I deleted every message, photo, and call history I had with her. I couldn't even bring myself to say her name out loud. A week later, a detective called to follow up. Lena wasn't in custody, but she was officially a person of interest. Apparently, she'd quit her lease and disappeared the day after our conversation. Her car was found abandoned near a state park 3 counties over, but no sign of her. I asked if they thought she was running, or if maybe something had happened to her, and the detective just said, We're exploring all possibilities. That was it. No comfort, no resolution. Just more silence. And now, every time I walk home from the bus stop at night, I find myself glancing over my shoulder, listening for footsteps that aren't there, looking for headlights that slow down just a little too much. The weirdest part? I still catch myself thinking about some of the theories she told me, the way she saw patterns in things no one else did. What if she really was just that perceptive? What if she guessed right and now she's out there somewhere scared because the world misunderstood her? Or worse, what if she wasn't guessing at all? What if she was the one behind it, and befriending me was her way of staying close to the chaos without drawing attention? I'll never know. That's the part that keeps me up. Not the police visit, not the matchstick, not even her vanishing. It's the not knowing. I've changed my number since then. Moved apartments. I keep my blinds shut now. I don't talk to people at work unless I have to, and I definitely don't bond over murder podcasts anymore. It's not worth the risk, because you never really know who you're inviting into your life. You never really know how much they already know about you, or what they're capable of saying when they think no one else is really listening. I'm not really the type of person who signs up for things like food drives. I'm a full-time college student, broke most of the time, usually juggling late assignments with part-time shifts at a bookstore near campus. But around mid-October last year, I got an email from one of my professors offering extra credit if we volunteered at this weekend food drive downtown. I figured a few hours packing boxes and handing out canned goods was a small price to pay for saving my GPA. I went alone, no expectations, just hoping to fly under the radar and get out of there in time to catch the late bus home. That's where I met Jamie. At least, that's the name she gave me. She had one of those instant energy personalities. Bright pink hoodie, hair in 2 big frizzy buns, and this constant grin that made her seem like she'd had 3 Red Bulls before 8 a.m. We got paired up at the same donation table, and right away she was cracking jokes about expired soup cans and offering me some trail mix from this big Ziploc bag she pulled from her backpack. I laughed because she was funny, like effortlessly funny, and honestly, it made the whole thing way less awkward. Most of the other volunteers just kind of kept to themselves, but Jamie talked to everyone. She made it feel like we were part of something. By the end of the first day, we'd exchanged Instagram handles and numbers. She even offered to share a ride home with me because she had a car. I declined, but I appreciated it. We ended up working together the next weekend too, and then again the weekend after that. It turned into this routine. Sometimes we'd grab a coffee after volunteering. Sometimes she'd bring extra snacks just for me, little things like string cheese or those peanut butter crackers. She had this way of making you feel like you were her best friend, like you'd known each other forever, even though it had only been a couple weeks. One afternoon, I had a study group meeting at the library, and my laptop completely froze. Jamie was there, just hanging out while I tried to reboot it, and without missing a beat, she offered me hers. "Just take it seriously," she said, waving it off like it was no big deal. "I won't need it till Monday, just bring it back whenever." It felt weird borrowing something that personal, but she insisted. The laptop was loaded with all sorts of stickers, cats, retro cartoons, a tiny sticker that just said, "Be nice." It even had a post-it note stuck to the corner of the screen with a smiley face drawn in Sharpie. I remember thinking how wholesome she was. I returned the laptop 2 days later, just like she asked. She thanked me, didn't even check it, just slid it back into her backpack like nothing happened. Few days after that, we kind of drifted. I got busy with midterms. She said she was helping out at another drive across town. We still messaged here and there, mostly memes or quick updates, but it wasn't like before. Then one night, I noticed her Instagram was gone. Not like she unfollowed me, I mean completely gone. Her account just vanished. No warning. I figured maybe she deactivated it or something happened and she needed a break from social media. It didn't really hit me until I got a call from my bank 2 weeks later. Someone had applied for a credit card under my name. I thought it was a scam call at first, but the guy walked me through the application. They had my full name, my current address, even my student ID number. I was stunned. I kept saying, I don't know how they got that stuff, and he just calmly said I should freeze my credit and file a police report. I hung up and felt like I couldn't breathe. Like someone had peeled back a layer of my life I didn't even know could be touched. The police took it seriously, surprisingly. I filed a report online first, then went to the station the next day with my laptop, just in case it had been compromised. That's when things got weird. The officer asked if I had shared my laptop with anyone recently, or used someone else's. When I mentioned Jamie, his entire posture changed. He leaned forward and asked for her full name. That's when I realized. I didn't actually know it. She never gave me a last name. Her Instagram was gone. I had no idea where she lived. All I had was her phone number, which, as it turns out, had already been disconnected. A week later, the detective working my case called me back in. They'd looked into Jamie's identity. The laptop she lent me had been linked to several identity theft cases, mostly young volunteers who'd worked with food drives or charity events. Her name changed with every report. Sometimes she was a Jamie, sometimes a Riley. In one report, she went by Aaron, but it was the same person. Same face, same build, same baggy hoodie and snack-stuffed backpack. She had active warrants in 2 states. Apparently, she used food drives as a way to get close to people. Friendly, generous, harmless. That's how she got their trust. I think what really messed me up wasn't just the fact that I got used, it was how normal she seemed. I replayed every moment with her in my head, trying to figure out if there had been any red flags I missed. But there really weren't. She was warm, open, and never once pushed too far. She didn't ask for passwords or anything weird, just subtle stuff, like casually offering help, making me feel safe, like she was just another overworked student trying to do something good. And the snacks, I still think about those. She used comfort like a weapon. Campus security got involved after the police connected her to multiple student reports from other universities in the state. Apparently, she'd floated between schools for almost a year. No one knew her real name. Not even the food drive organizers. She always signed up last minute, always used temporary emails. They said she probably had a system, find the friendliest loner at the event, build trust, and then get access to personal info. I kept wondering how many others had gone through the same thing and just never found out. In the end, the police couldn't catch her. Not yet, at least. But they froze the line of credit and flagged my identity, so nothing else could be opened under my name. I had to change all my passwords, get a new school ID, and spent weeks on the phone with fraud protection services. Every little thing started to feel like a trap. I couldn't even open an email from my bank without second-guessing if it was real. I started bringing my own snacks to class, which sounds dumb, but for some reason that hit me the hardest. I didn't trust anyone offering me anything anymore. It's been months now, and I still check over my shoulder at every event I go to. I haven't volunteered since. I know that sounds dramatic, but once someone uses kindness to hurt you, it changes the way you see people. Sometimes I wonder if I'll bump into her again, in line at a coffee shop or handing out granola bars at another event. And if I do, I honestly don't know what I'd say. I'd probably just freeze, like my old laptop did right before everything spiraled. So yeah, if someone ever seems too friendly at a food drive, do yourself a favor. Keep your snacks and your name to yourself. I was a sophomore at Western Oregon University when this happened. It was late September, and I'd just moved into one of the off-campus apartments the school helped students get into. I was majoring in sociology back then, juggling part-time shifts at a bookstore downtown, and trying to stay afloat mentally after a rough freshman year. My last roommate experience had been hell, loud, drunk, and always borrowing my stuff. So when I got paired with a new girl named Kira, I didn't expect much. But to my surprise, she was actually cool. She had this chill vibe. Quiet, clean, always made extra food and offered me a plate. She was studying criminology, which I thought was kind of badass, and we'd stay up watching true crime shows like Forensic Files together, joking about how we'd be experts at catching serial killers. At first, it felt like I'd won the roommate lottery. Kyra had this dry sense of humor that caught you off guard, and she made the best damn mac and cheese I've ever had, with like 4 types of cheese and some crushed hot Cheetos on top. We got into this rhythm fast. Grocery runs together on Sundays, rotating who cleaned the bathroom. Late-night boba runs when we were too stressed to sleep. She didn't talk much about her past, but honestly, I didn't think twice about it. A lot of people in college are just trying to reinvent themselves. The only odd thing was that she didn't have any social media. No Instagram, no Snapchat, not even a Facebook profile. She just laughed it off when I asked and said she preferred to live off the grid. Things started to shift around month 5. Kyra became weirdly jumpy, like flinching when someone knocked on our door, and I caught her once standing totally still in the living room in the dark at 2 a.m., just staring at the wall. When I asked if she was okay, she blinked like I'd snapped her out of a trance, then mumbled something about sleepwalking. I brushed it off. Maybe she was just stressed. Finals were around the corner, but then she missed her half of the rent. I texted her, no reply. I called, went straight to voicemail. Her room was still locked, but her backpack and laptop were gone. I waited 2 days before reporting it, thinking maybe she had some kind of family emergency or mental breakdown. After another day of silence, I finally decided to go into her room. I picked the lock with a bobby pin, something I never thought I'd do, but at that point I was worried. The room looked emptier than I expected. Her clothes were gone, the drawers wiped clean. But something felt off. There was a faint smell, chemical, sharp, like rubbing alcohol or some kind of cleaner. And taped underneath the desk, barely visible unless you crouched down, was a shoebox. I hesitated before opening it. Inside were at least 10 fake IDs, all with Kyra's face but different names and states. There were prepaid debit cards, small stacks of cash, and at the very bottom, photos of me. Dozens of them, all taken in our apartment. Most were normal, me cooking, watching TV, but one stopped my breath cold. It was me asleep in my bed, taken from inside my room. I dropped the box so fast it slid halfway under the bed. My hands were shaking, and I remember this strange metallic taste in my mouth, like fear had a flavor. I just kept staring at that one photo, the one of me sleeping. I don't even lock my door when I'm home. Why would I? I used to trust her. I replayed every night in my head, wondering how many times she'd been in my room while I was out cold, completely unaware. And then it hit me. She always offered to make tea. Every time I had a long day, she'd say, "You look exhausted. Want me to make you something to relax?" I thought she was just being nice, but now I wasn't so sure. My stomach churned like I was going to throw up. I called campus security first, then the police. When the officers showed up and I showed them the contents of the box, they went quiet. Like, too quiet. They asked me a bunch of questions. How long had I known her? Did I know her real name? Had she ever given me anything to drink or eat I hadn't watched her prepare? I didn't know how to answer half of it. I felt stupid. Like I'd let someone dangerous that close to me, let her into my life, laughed with her, cried to her after that fight with my ex. And now it felt like none of it was real. They bagged the box and took my statement, but I could tell they weren't hopeful. One of the officers, an older guy with salt and pepper hair, looked at me and said quietly, "This isn't the first time we've seen something like this." Turns out, the name Kyra Bennett didn't exist. Her student registration was under that name, yeah, but everything she used to apply was fake. Fake transcripts, fake ID. Even the emergency contact was a burner number. The university was stunned, but it also made me feel worse. How could someone fake their way into college that thoroughly? And more importantly, why? The police suspected identity theft or fraud. Maybe she used college as a front to steal from other students, gather data, drain bank accounts. But when they ran the credit cards she left behind, they didn't belong to anyone local. Some were from out of state, even out of the country, like she'd been doing this for a long time, like I was just her next project. I didn't sleep properly for weeks after that. Every creak in the apartment made my skin crawl. I changed the locks, moved my bed away from the window, got blackout curtains, and even started sleeping with one of those door wedges under my knob. It's crazy how someone can shatter your sense of safety without ever raising their voice or laying a hand on you. Just the idea of what she might have done, of how calculated it all was enough to mess me up. One night I dreamed I woke up and she was sitting at the edge of my bed, just watching. When I turned on the light, she smiled and said, "I was never your roommate. You just made me real." I woke up screaming. Eventually I moved out of that apartment. I couldn't stay there. Even after scrubbing the place clean, painting over the walls, switching out the furniture, it still felt like she was in it somehow. Like her presence had left this invisible stain I couldn't get rid of. My parents helped me get into a small studio closer to downtown, and even though it was more expensive, I didn't care. I just needed to breathe again without looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. The hardest part was trusting people after that. I'd catch myself analyzing every little thing about new classmates, coworkers, wondering who they really were, what they weren't telling me. About 2 months after she vanished, I got a package in the mail. No return address, just my name handwritten on the front. Inside was a single Polaroid, a recent one. It was me walking to class with headphones in, something I did every Tuesday. The photo was taken from behind, but close enough that I could see the design on my backpack and the way my hair was tied up. There was no note, no message, just the picture. I brought it to the police and they filed it as stalking related, but nothing ever came of it. They said unless she made direct contact again, their hands were tied. I started carrying pepper spray and a mini taser after that. I never saw her again. No more packages, no emails, no random appearances. It was like she vanished off the face of the earth. But the paranoia she left behind didn't go away so easily. It's been over a year now, and I'm still undoing the damage she caused in my brain. Therapy helped, slowly. I'm learning to believe in people again, to let my guard down just enough. But there's still a part of me that wonders if she's out there, slipping into someone else's life, becoming their cool roommate, cooking them mac and cheese while planning something in the background. The thought makes my skin crawl. Sometimes late at night I still check under my bed, not because I think I'll find her there, but because now I know. Monsters don't always break in. Sometimes they move in with you. They smile at your jokes, they share your food, and then one day they disappear and you realize they weren't who you thought they were at all. Just a shadow wearing a mask, passing through your life like it was a role they were rehearsing for. I never found out her real name, but I don't think it would have mattered. Whoever she was, she'd already rewritten herself long before she got to me. This happened 2 years ago, when I was a sophomore at a small liberal arts college in North Carolina. I was living in a shared off-campus house with 2 other guys, but that weekend, both of them had gone home. I remember it was late October, cold enough to wear hoodies indoors, but not cold enough to turn on the heat. I was pulling an all-nighter, working on a midterm paper, when I got a message on Instagram from someone I hadn't thought about in years. Her name was Emily. We'd gone to the same high school, had maybe 1 or 2 classes together, but never really hung out. Still, I remembered her face. Quiet, kind of artsy, always wearing oversized sweaters and listening to music through tangled earbuds. Her message said, "Hey, sorry to reach out like this. Is there any way I could crash at your place for a night or 2? I'm in kind of a rough situation." I was caught off guard. I hadn't spoken to Emily since we were teenagers. I scrolled through her profile. Nothing weird, just some moody nature photos and sketches, the kind you'd expect from someone who used to doodle in the margins of math tests. I asked what was going on, and she replied almost instantly, Said she'd left her boyfriend that morning after months of emotional abuse, that she didn't feel safe going to a shelter, and that she remembered me as someone genuinely nice. That part got to me. I've always had a soft spot for people in bad situations, and the idea of her sleeping in a car or worse, it didn't sit right. After a couple more back and forths, I gave her the address and told her she could stay on our couch. She showed up about an hour later with just a tote bag and a hoodie, looking exactly like I remembered. Tired, pale, like she'd been crying but didn't want to talk about it. At first, everything seemed fine. She barely said more than a few words, thanked me 3 or 4 times, and immediately curled up on the couch with a blanket. She didn't ask for anything, no food, no charger, nothing. I offered her some leftovers and she just shook her head. I went back to working on my laptop in the kitchen and tried not to hover. I figured she'd sleep a night, maybe 2, and then figure out her next move. I wasn't expecting her to open up or share any details. I've seen enough friends go through bad breakups to know you don't push. The next morning, she was still asleep when I left for class, and when I got back that afternoon, she was sketching quietly in a notebook like she'd always lived there. The weird stuff didn't start until the second night. I came home from the library around 10 p.m. and noticed she wasn't on the couch. I figured she'd gone out for a walk or something, but then I heard movement upstairs, in my room. I froze. No one else was supposed to be home. When I opened the door, she was standing there, holding one of my books, like she was just browsing. She smiled and said, "Sorry, I was looking for something to read." I laughed it off, but something felt off. Not scary, just odd. Like someone walking through your house barefoot when you didn't hear them come in. The next morning I noticed my headphones were gone. At first I thought I'd just misplaced them. I'd do that all the time. But I looked everywhere. My desk drawer, my backpack, even under my bed. Nothing. I asked Emily if she'd seen them, and she shook her head without looking up from her notebook. "Nope, sorry," she mumbled. I let it go. It's just a pair of headphones, right? But that same day, I also realized my watch was missing. Not some luxury thing, just an old fossil my dad gave me when I graduated high school. I started getting that feeling. You know, when things don't add up, but you don't want to accuse someone because what if you're wrong? What if she really is going through hell and I'm sitting here paranoid about a watch? That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing little sounds, floorboards creaking, the fridge door opening, drawers shutting. I wanted to believe I was just on edge from midterms and caffeine, but the next day sealed it. I stopped at the gas station after class to grab a drink, and my card got declined. Confused, I checked my bank app and saw a bunch of weird charges. Uber Eats, some random online store I didn't recognize, even a digital gift card purchase. Over $300 gone in less than 48 hours. My stomach dropped. I opened my wallet right there in the parking lot, and my card was gone. I'd used it the day before. The only other person who'd been in the house was her. I didn't confront her right away. I took a walk around the block, trying to calm down and figure out what to say. My hands were shaking. I kept thinking, what if she flips out? What if she's not who I thought she was? I ended up messaging a friend from high school, Josh, who also knew her vaguely. I just asked, "Hey, did Emily ever reach out to you? Like asking for help?" He replied, "Dude, yes, a few months ago, same story." Said she was escaping her boyfriend. I let her stay for 2 nights and she bailed with my roommate's PS4. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. I went straight to Reddit and typed her full name into the search bar. I didn't expect anything. But there it was, a thread titled "Beware of Emily, last name, college scam artist." Dozens of comments, different campuses, same method. She'd show up looking vulnerable, tell a sob story, and quietly disappear with stolen items and used credit cards. Some people even posted pictures of her drawings, left behind as if they were calling cards. My stomach turned. I realized she hadn't just picked me at random. She'd targeted me because I looked like someone who wouldn't say no. I stood outside my house for almost 10 minutes just staring at the front door, thinking through every way this could go. I didn't want to blow up or make a scene. I wanted her out, but more than that, I wanted my stuff back. When I finally went inside, she was in the kitchen, barefoot, making toast like she'd lived there for weeks. I just said, "We need to talk." She didn't even flinch, just looked at me with that same distant, blank expression she always had. I told her I knew about the card, that I saw the charges, and that I'd talked to other people. I expected some kind of reaction, anger, denial, maybe tears. But she just calmly said, "Okay, I'll go." She walked past me like nothing happened, picked up her tote bag from the couch, and headed to the door. No rush, no guilt, like she was clocking out from a shift. I followed her outside, still in shock. Before she stepped off the porch, she turned and said, "I only take from people who have something to lose. You'll be fine." Then she walked down the street and disappeared around the corner. I didn't call the cops. I probably should have. I just stood there, completely frozen, feeling like I'd been mugged by a ghost. I went back inside and locked every door and window in the house, even though she was long gone. Over the next week, I kept finding things missing, small stuff I wouldn't have noticed right away. A USB stick, a hoodie, even the spare key I thought was buried in my sock drawer. I filed a fraud claim with the bank and eventually got most of the money back, but I never recovered the physical stuff. What got to me the most wasn't the theft. It was how good she was at pretending. The silence, the sadness, the hunched posture. It was like a character she wore, and I bought every second of it. I kept replaying our conversations, trying to spot the moment I should have known, but there wasn't one. That's the part that haunts me. I ended up deleting Instagram, tightening all my privacy settings, and not letting anyone I barely know stay over ever again. Every now and then, I still check Reddit to see if someone's posted about her again. She's probably using a different name by now, maybe even another sob story. But sometimes, when I walk back to my place and pass someone sitting on a stoop with a duffel bag and tired eyes, I still hesitate, just for a second. Then I remember that look she gave me before she left. Calm. Like this was just what she did. And I keep walking. I'm not usually the type to post stuff like this online, but something happened a few months ago that I can't get out of my head. I feel like I need to tell someone. Back then, I was living alone in Asheville, North Carolina. I'd just gotten out of a relationship and was trying to stay active, keep my mind busy, you know? I downloaded this fitness app called Trail Track. It was supposed to connect people in the area for jogging, biking, hiking, and that kind of thing. I wasn't looking to make close friends, just stay motivated. At the time, I was working remotely for a logistics company, so I had flexible hours and plenty of time to run. After about a week on the app, I got a message from someone named Lena M. Her profile showed a woman in her early 30s just like me, blonde ponytail, bright green tank top in her profile pic, holding up a medal from a 10K race. She said she'd just moved to the area from Michigan and was also looking for a running partner. We chatted a bit, all very normal. Talked about favorite trails, paces, playlists. She had this friendly, energetic way of writing, lots of emojis and exclamation points. It felt harmless. After 3 days of chatting, we set up a run near the French Broad River Greenway. She showed up exactly on time, looked like her photo, and we jogged for nearly an hour. Our second run was just as uneventful, a different trail, slightly longer route. We talked about everything and nothing. Weird neighbors, best running shoes, the fact that neither of us could cook to save our lives. Lena was bubbly, always cracking jokes about how terrible she was with directions, how she once got lost in a Whole Foods parking lot. She had this really specific laugh, kind of like a snort at the end, which made it feel all the more real. I had no reason to question any of it. So when she messaged a few days later about a trail she wanted to try out in Bent Creek, a bit more remote but supposedly scenic, I said sure. I even offered to drive myself there so we could meet at the entrance. The day of that run, I remember it was overcast and just a little chilly mid-March. I parked in the gravel lot around 7:45 a.m. She'd suggested meeting at 8. It was one of those trails tucked behind a stretch of dense trees, no clear signage, just a faded wooden post and a weathered map under plastic. I texted Lena when I arrived, and she said she was 5 minutes out. I stretched a bit, took a sip of water, scrolled aimlessly through my phone. At 8:10, she still wasn't there. I texted again. No answer. That's when I noticed a guy standing about 20 yards into the trail, partially behind a tree. Like he wasn't trying to hide exactly, but definitely wasn't making himself known either. He was wearing a black hoodie, jeans, and a tan ball cap pulled low over his face. At first, I tried not to overthink it. I figured maybe he was just another hiker waiting for someone, or maybe he'd stopped to tie his shoe or check something on his phone. But the longer I stood there, the more off it felt. He didn't move, didn't scroll, didn't pace, didn't even shift his weight. Just stood there, half behind that tree, like he was waiting. And I don't mean casual waiting, I mean deliberate. I looked back at my phone, still no reply from Lena. I texted her again, "Hey, I'm here, did you change your mind?" And right after I hit send, the guy took one step forward. Just one. And then he froze again. It felt like something inside me flipped. You know that moment when your body realizes something before your brain does? My chest tightened. I backed toward my car slowly, trying not to make it obvious that I was watching him. I unlocked the door with the key fob, trying to act normal, trying not to sprint like a cartoon character. The guy didn't follow, but he also didn't leave. He just stood there, watching. I got in, locked the doors, and started the engine. My hands were shaking. I still remember how cold my fingers felt gripping the steering wheel. As I pulled out of the lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was gone. Just gone. Like he'd melted into the woods. I drove straight home, heart still pounding, and waited another hour just in case Lena reached out with some excuse. Nothing. I opened the app again and went to our chat, but something was off. Her profile picture was blurry now. Her name had changed to just user 405. I clicked the profile. No shared runs, no followers, nothing. It was like it had been wiped clean. I messaged her, "Are you okay? What happened?" And it bounced back. User not found. That's when my stomach dropped. I went back and reread our messages, every little detail. And I started to notice things I hadn't picked up on before. Her way of talking was always kind of vague. Her pictures, they looked a little too perfect, like they'd been taken from a stock photo website. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the guy in the woods, that single step forward, how long he must have been standing there before I even noticed. The next morning, I called the non-emergency police line and explained everything. The woman on the phone got quiet when I mentioned the trail in the app. Then she asked if I'd be willing to come in and talk. I went down to the station that afternoon, and that's when I learned I wasn't the only one. Apparently, several women in the Asheville area had reported something similar. Meeting someone through a running app, usually a woman, always friendly, always normal. And then they'd get invited to some remote spot, and someone else would be waiting. One of the officers, a woman named Detective Carson, showed me a few printouts. Blurred screenshots from other users' reports, side-by-side comparisons of different profiles that used the same photos with slight variations. Same face, but different names, different cities. It was all so calculated. She told me they believed it was part of a pattern. Someone, or maybe even a small group, was setting up fake profiles to lure women to isolated places. She said in most of the cases, nothing actually happened. The women left before things got bad. But there was one report. She didn't go into detail, just said it hadn't ended as cleanly. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. My head was already spinning. I felt sick just being there. I deleted the app the same day. I stopped going to trails alone, even during the day. Started jogging in my apartment complex's gym instead, where there were always people around and security cameras on every floor. And for a while, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Like if I went outside, someone would recognize me from a screen somewhere. I even changed my social media handles and made everything private. It sounds paranoid, I know. But when you come that close to something that feels like it was meant to trap you, you start looking at everything differently. I became hyper-aware of how easy it is to pretend to be someone online. What scares me the most isn't what happened. It's what almost did. If I hadn't trusted that gut feeling, if I had walked just a few steps into that trail, if I hadn't noticed him right then, there are too many versions of this story that end worse, and no one would have known where I went. The chat logs were gone. The profile was wiped. It would have looked like I just went for a run and never came back. I keep thinking about how planned it all felt, down to the photo, the way she talked, the fact that she'd met me twice before, like they were gaining trust, making it feel safe. That's what makes my skin crawl. The scariest part? They still haven't caught whoever did it. As far as I know, the trail camera in that area didn't catch his face. The person who created the Lena account used a VPN and fake email. It's like they knew exactly how to cover their tracks. Sometimes I wonder how many women said yes to that invite and never thought twice about it. How many didn't turn around when they saw something weird? How many didn't notice anything wrong at all? I still run, just not outside, not alone. I still get invites on other apps, people asking if I want a running partner, and I just delete them without replying. Once you see how easily someone can wear a friendly face, you don't forget it. A couple weeks after everything happened, I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just my name and apartment number, written in sloppy pen. Inside was a single photo, a printout of me and Lena during one of our runs. I didn't even remember anyone taking it. We were both mid-stride, laughing. She was slightly ahead of me. The photo wasn't from a phone. It looked like it was taken from a distance, maybe with a long lens. There was nothing written on the back, nothing else in the envelope. I brought it straight to the police and they added it to the case file. I never heard anything back. That was the last time I received anything. After that, it just stopped. People always ask me, how did you not see the signs? But that's the thing. Predators don't come with red flags flapping in the wind. They come as someone who laughs at your dumb jokes, someone who runs at your pace, someone who says things like, "You're so easy to talk to," while waving off bugs on a sunny trail. They come as someone who seems like they've got nothing to hide, and sometimes they don't need to do anything extreme. Sometimes just showing up is enough to plant the kind of fear that sticks with you forever. That photo. It proved what I already felt. That someone had been watching the whole time, from the very beginning. I moved out of Asheville 3 months later. New job, new apartment, new everything. But I still find myself checking behind trees when I'm walking through a park, or flinching when I see someone standing still in the distance. I don't know if they picked me randomly, or if they watched me for a while before reaching out. I'll probably never know. What I do know is that my instincts saved me that day. Not logic, not strength. Just that quiet voice in my head saying, "Something's wrong. Get out." And I hope if you ever hear that voice, even if everything looks normal, you listen to it. Because I did, and I'm still here to tell the story.